Okay, so picture this. You are exactly 1 month out from your wedding.
Right, which is notoriously the most stressful time of the whole process.
Exactly, the absolute peak of the stress. And you walk up to your really expensive high-end venue and you borrow a shovel.
Wait, a literal shovel?
Literal shovel.
Yeah.
And you just walk out and start digging a hole in the mud right next to where the altar's going to be.
I can only imagine the venue manager's face.
Right. But then you take a completely sealed, very expensive bottle of Kentucky bourbon and you place it into the dirt upside down. And you just bury it.
That is quite the visual.
Yeah. And the kicker is you aren't trying to hide it for later. You are, like, actively trying to control the sky.
It's wild. It is the ultimate collision of hyper-rational modern planning and just pure unadulterated folklore.
Yes, exactly.
Because, you know, when you're engineering an event that costs thousands of dollars, you control everything. The spreadsheets, the catering, the exact shade of the napkins.
Oh, absolutely. The micro details.
Oh, right. But the one variable that absolutely refuses to RSVP is the weather.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it sounds like you're buying a superstitious insurance policy for an outdoor event.
Yeah.
But instead of paying a premium to an insurance agent, you're paying it in whiskey to the dirt.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It is an insurance policy, but the true payout isn't sunshine. It's actually psychological grounding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And to really understand how an ancient superstition like this ends up at the center of modern event planning, we're pulling from Weddizer today for this deep dive.
Right, the Weddizer platform.
Exactly. It's this comprehensive guidance platform where event professionals and planners go to explore cultural traditions. They deep dive into business planning strategies and figure out how to incorporate these really highly specific niche customs into modern events.
Which is fascinating because you look at the business section of a platform like Weddizer and you expect to see articles on, I don't know, catering margins or venue liability.
Or vendor contracts.
Exactly. But instead, you find this really detailed guidance on how to properly execute a bourbon burial.
It's so specific.
It really is. And it highlights how modern event planning isn't just about logistics anymore. It's about managing human psychology through cultural traditions.
Absolutely.
So before we can analyze the psychological value of all this, we have to establish exactly what this ritual is. Because as the source points out, rituals aren't just random actions.
Yeah, not at all.
There are strict, like, non-negotiable rules.
Yeah, and that structure is what separates a sacred or significant ritual from just, digging a hole in the ground like a weirdo.
Right, right.
The mechanics are highly specific. So first, the couple must use a full, unopened bottle of bourbon.
So no sneaking a sip beforehand.
No sneaking a sip. It cannot be half empty. It cannot be consumed beforehand at all. And they have to bury it exactly 1 month before the date of the event.
Wow, exactly a month.
Not 3 weeks, not 5 weeks, 1 precise month.
And the location matters too, right? Because the Weddizer article says it has to be buried at the actual venue. Usually as close to the ceremony altar or like the main gathering space as physically possible.
Yeah, right in the center of the action.
Right. And then comes the detail that really caught my eye. It absolutely must be buried upside down.
That is the big one.
Yeah. And finally, the payoff. If it works and you have beautiful weather, you dig the bottle up immediately after the ceremony and you use that exact bourbon for a celebratory toast.
Which sounds amazing. And, the origins of this highly structured sequence are planted firmly in Southern American agrarian culture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, specifically trailing back to states like Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia in the 18th and 19th centuries.
Okay, so way back.
Way back. These regions have a massive heritage tied to the outdoors, but more importantly, they are the birthplace of bourbon.
I want to dig into that historical context for a second, because bourbon wasn't just a casual drink back then.
No, it definitely wasn't.
We're talking about early agrarian societies. Their entire existence, like their actual physical survival, depended completely on the weather. If it rained too much or not enough, crops failed.
Right, people starve.
Exactly. So the sky was a very real, very threatening force.
And that is exactly how bourbon became a high-stakes social currency. Think about what it takes to actually make whiskey.
A lot of grain, I'd imagine.
Right. It requires excess grain, immense physical labor, time, specialized equipment. In an early agrarian society, a distilled spirit wasn't just a beverage. It was the literal distillation of your survival and prosperity.
Wow, that's That really puts it in perspective.
Yeah, it was a luxury. So when you take a luxury item like that and offer it to the earth, you are making a really high-value sacrifice.
You're offering the fruits of your harvest back to the soil.
Exactly, in exchange for a little meteorological mercy. And over centuries, bourbon evolved from a survival commodity into this deeply embedded cultural symbol of hospitality, celebration, and luck.
What's fascinating here is how the tradition takes a hyper-local product, like Southern bourbon, and deploys it against a totally universal fear.
The fear of rain on your big day.
Right. But I have to push back on the mechanics of this tool for a second.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because the idea of burying something valuable as an offering, that's universally understood. But placing the bottle upside down is listed as a crucial, non-negotiable part of the ritual.
Yep, it absolutely is.
From a basic physics standpoint, burying a corked or sealed bottle upside down in wet soil just seems like a recipe for a leak.
It really does.
You're practically begging for groundwater to seep into your really expensive bourbon.
Is there a practical, physical reason for this orientation, or is it purely symbolic? Are we just trying to make sure the weather spirits get the first sip?
Honestly, from a purely meteorological or scientific standpoint, there's absolutely no justification for the upside-down roll.
I knew it. Yeah, but from a psychological and analytical standpoint, it is actually the most important part of the ritual. Anthropologists refer to this kind of thing as ritualistic framing.
Ritualistic framing. Okay, what does that mean?
Rituals often feature counterintuitive or highly specific steps precisely because they force you out of your daily routine.
Because you don't store your pantry items upside down.
Exactly. You never store a bottle upside down. If you just placed it right side up in the dirt, it might feel like you are just, storing it underground.
Like a root cellar or something.
Right. By turning it upside down, you are purposefully breaking the rules of everyday utility. It makes the act feel deliberate.
Oh, I see.
It separates the action from mundane life and elevates it to something specialized or sacred. The strictness, the sheer physical awkwardness of placing a bottle upside down in a hole is the entire point.
Because it creates an illusion of control.
Precisely. It creates an illusion of control.
That changes the whole perspective. The awkwardness is the feature, not the bug. Once you realize this isn't actually about weather control, but about psychological comfort, it explains exactly why the modern event industry has embraced it so tightly. Which brings us to the really compelling psychological breakdown and the guidance from Weddizer.
Yeah, their business section really nails this part.
It really does. The modern couples and planners utilizing these niche traditions, they're highly rational people. They know a bottle of whiskey doesn't influence atmospheric pressure.
Right. They aren't actually praying to a rain god.
So why are they still out there in the mud?
Well, event planning, particularly for something as emotionally charged as a wedding or a massive corporate retreat, induces massive cognitive overload.
Oh, for sure.
You are making hundreds of micro decisions a day. Chicken or beef, linen or cotton. What time does the DJ arrive? The brain just becomes exhausted by decision fatigue.
And the month leading up to the event is notoriously the most chaotic period.
The absolute worst.
The spreadsheets are failing, the budget is stretching, and the anxiety is peaking.
And what does this ritual demand? It forces the couple to stop everything, step completely away from the logistics, travel to the physical space where the event will actually happen, and engage in a singular, absurd, shared tasks.
It's a circuit breaker.
Exactly. It acts as a cognitive circuit breaker. Burying a bottle requires zero complex decisions. It just requires physical labor.
So what does this all mean in practice? It's essentially a mandatory team-building exercise, cleverly disguised as folklore.
That's incredibly accurate.
Instead of doing a corporate trust fall in a sterile conference room, you're out there in the dirt together. You're actively sharing vulnerability.
Because, let's face it, standing in a field burying a bottle of liquor is ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous. You have to laugh at yourself.
Right. It provides a massive release valve for the tension that builds up during event planning. Shared absurdity is one of the most effective bonding mechanisms human beings have.
Wow, shared absurdity. I love that.
It guarantees a positive shared experience, regardless of the actual weather on the day of the event. It anchors the partnership. But beyond that internal, private benefit for the couple, there is a massive external advantage that event planners acutely understand.
And Weddizer points this out too. Storytelling.
Yes, storytelling.
You transform a generic rented space to a location with immediate personal history. When the guests finally arrive at the venue, maybe the sky is overcast, maybe it's perfectly sunny. But either way, the couple has this incredibly unique anecdote to share.
It's a built-in icebreaker.
Exactly. They can point to a patch of grass near the altar and say, hey, exactly 30 days ago, we were standing right there covered in mud, burying our favorite whiskey.
It invites the guests into the narrative of the event. And for modern event planning, creating an engaging, immersive narrative is incredibly valuable.
People want a story.
They do. Guests don't just want a nice dinner anymore. They want to feel connected to the process and the history of the people they are celebrating.
Right.
A platform like Weddizer highlights this ritual in their business guidance because they recognize that planners aren't just selling logistics anymore. They are selling a narrative.
They're selling an aesthetic of stress relief and cultural connection.
Precisely.
Which naturally brings us to how this is being modernized and monetized today, because tradition rarely survives if it remains static.
No, it has to evolve.
It has to adapt to the environment it finds itself in. And watching how the modern social media-driven event business has adapted the bourbon burial is fascinating. Couples are no longer just grabbing a dusty bottle off a liquor store shelf and doing this in secret.
Oh no! The evolution of the ritual is moving it from a private superstition to a highly produced piece of content.
Of course it is.
Couples are heavily customizing the experience to reflect their individual identities. They are printing custom labels for the bottles featuring their names, the date of the event, and even custom artwork.
So it's very Instagrammable.
Very. Some are turning the burial itself into a secondary event. They are bringing the entire bridal party, opening a second bottle to drink while they bury the first one, and turning the whole process into a dedicated pre-wedding photo session.
See, that's brilliant from a content creation standpoint. You get beautiful, candid photos of everyone laughing and doing manual labor a month before everyone is dressed up in formal wear.
Right. It fundamentally changes the nature of the act. It shifts from being a quiet offering to ward off bad luck into a loud visual celebration of the planning journey itself.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's wild how a regional tradition morphs like this.
And what we are seeing is that people are even subverting the Southern roots entirely. The guidance points out that couples with no connection to the South, or perhaps those who don't even drink whiskey, are modifying the core elements.
Right, so burying a bottle of vintage champagne in Napa Valley or a specific regional wine in Tuscany.
Exactly. They keep the psychological framework, the 1-month rule, the upside-down burial, the shared task, but they swap out the cultural artifact to match their own heritage or the theme of the event.
This is how a hyper-local regional tradition becomes a global commodity.
It hits all the required metrics for modern event success. It's highly visual, making it perfectly tailored for platforms like Instagram and Pinterest. It is infinitely customizable.
And crucially, it remains rich in cultural meaning, which prevents it from feeling hollow or purely transactional.
Right, it feels authentic, even if you are adopting someone else's heritage to do it.
But here's where it gets really interesting. When you take a raw, earthy 18th century folk ritual and plug it directly into the modern, highly regulated event industry, you get some very real-world friction.
Oh, definitely.
Because you can't just walk onto someone else's commercial property with a shovel and start doing amateur excavations.
No, venue managers generally frown upon that.
Right. The business guidance on Weddizer is incredibly strict about the practical logistics. You absolutely must coordinate with the venue management ahead of time.
Because venue managers have landscaping budgets, irrigation lines, and liability waivers to worry about, they do not want couples blindly digging holes near electrical conduits.
That is exactly the kind of nightmare an event planner is paid to avoid.
Truly.
And beyond venue permission, you have to mark the spot securely. Because losing a bottle of premium bourbon in a massive field and having your bridal party desperately digging up the venue grounds an hour before the ceremony.
Oh, that sounds so stressful.
It's the exact opposite of stress relief.
This negotiation between tradition and modern commerce is just fascinating. What happens when a high-end, manicured botanical garden flat out refuses to let you dig a hole in their pristine lawn?
The compromises are incredible. The guidance suggests bringing a massive decorative potted plant to the venue and burying the bottle in the potting soil.
A potted plant.
Yeah, or bringing a decorative box of dirt from the couple's own home.
That is amazing.
It shows how deeply people crave the psychological comfort of the ritual. They're willing to negotiate these modern hurdles to bury a bottle in a literal flower pot just to preserve the structure of the tradition.
And that desperation for comfort explains why this is trending globally. Through the interconnected nature of social media and the detailed guidance of business planning platforms like Weddizer, people in Europe, Asia, and across the globe, people who have absolutely zero cultural or historical connection to 18th century Kentucky are suddenly burying bourbon.
Because while they don't share the geography, they share the exact same universal anxiety. Please don't let it rain on my incredibly expensive party.
Right. The tradition has completely outgrown its borders because the human condition it addresses is universal.
We all experience the dread of the uncontrollable variable.
Exactly. By adopting this ritual, couples worldwide are borrowing a mechanism for cognitive offloading. They are outsourcing their weather anxiety to the dirt so they can focus on the things they actually can control.
It's brilliant. So let's bring all these threads together and recap the journey of this deep dive.
Sounds good.
We started with what looked like a strange, highly regional superstition from the agrarian South, the strict non-negotiable rules of burying a sealed bottle of whiskey upside down 1 month out to ward off the rain clouds.
And then we examined how that physical act operates as a psychological circuit breaker. It forces stressed planners out of their spreadsheets and into a shared physical task that builds unity.
And it provides a powerful storytelling anchor for the venue.
Right.
And finally, we explored how the modern event industry, guided by platforms that map out these cultural niches, has commodified and modernized the ritual.
We saw the custom labels, the champagne variations, and the very real logistical friction of trying to dig holes at commercial venues.
We uncovered a highly robust, psychologically grounding tool masquerading as folklore.
It demonstrates that we don't hold on to traditions because they literally alter the physical world. We hold on to them because they alter us.
They alter how we perceive our own lack of control. And this is where we turn it over to you. Because even if you are not currently planning a massive event, you are likely planning something.
Everyone is planning something.
Right. A major career pivot, a cross-country move, a complex family gathering. We all face massive projects where the variables eventually slip out of our hands. When you are staring down that chaotic period of planning, what quirky rituals, little superstitions, or deliberate routines do you rely on to build unity or relieve stress?
Are you engaging in those actions because you genuinely believe they will change the physical outcome of your project?
Or, if you are being honest with yourself, are you doing them for the psychological comfort and the grounding they provide in that moment of high anxiety?
Recognizing the difference between trying to control the world and trying to control your own anxiety is a massive step in navigating high-stakes situations. Rituals give us a framework to process the unknown.
It's a powerful realization. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've seen how this hyper-local tradition of burying the bourbon has been exported globally. It has been picked up by social media, customized with fancy labels, filtered through Instagram aesthetics, and swapped out for champagne. As these incredibly specific, geographically rooted rituals travel around the world and are adopted by entirely new cultures, do they eventually lose their original cultural soul?
That's a great question.
Or, by adapting to new environments and addressing the universal human fear of the unpredictable, do they simply evolve into a new, universal language of celebration? Something to think about the next time you find yourself trying to control the uncontrollable.